In today's video, we're going to be talking about yet another bingo board challenge that I am really excited to get involved in. This one runs from June the 1st through to the 31st of May, so it is already on the go. You can jump in whenever you feel like it. It's being hosted by Ivy, the Geek Goddess, and I will link to her announcement video, which is full of lots of canvas graphics and all the fun stuff you'll need in my description. Also, a big thank you to Books, who did her own recommendation video, and that is actually what put this challenge on my radar. Bo though has very different taste in books for me, and I did grab a lot of recommendations from her post, but I thought I could put forward my own suggestions as well. The board has an easy mode and a hard mode, like most of these challenges do. For my recommendations, I am going to be mixing a bit of the two together. Everything will fit for easy mode, and where I have an option for hard mode, it'll obviously count for both. If there's a hard mode prompt you're interested in and I don't have a recommendation in this video, then do let me know, because I might have something in mind with a little bit more thought and research. Let me know if you knew about this readathon, if you're excited to take part, and if you have any recommendations for any of the squares. Let's talk about the prompts. The first prompt is a BIPOC MC, and the hard mode here is a BIPOC author. My suggestion would be Gilda by Joe Gomez. This is actually a book from the 80s that has aged incredibly well. We are following Gilda, a black lesbian vampire. The book starts back in the 1800s and we get to see her life, her immortal life, as it progresses. Obviously the book meets its own timeline in the 80s, but what's really interesting is the predictions that Gomez made for some of her later, at that point, futuristic time points. We get to see, I think, up to about 2050, and it is frightening how on point she is. Some of the social and environmental and economic predictions she makes within this vampire horror are really prescient, and it's really interesting then to see what she thinks is going to come in the next couple of decades. If you don't want to go for that slightly older book, then something a lot more modern, still with our Sapphic vampires, would be House of Hunger by Alexis Henderson. In this, we have an incredibly ambitious, morally grey protagonist who takes a position as a blood maid for a high-ranking vampire noble in order to try and move her way up in society. But when she gets to this isolated estate, she finds out there is more than she thought going on. The next prompt is a 5-star prediction, and obviously everyone's going to pick something of their own here, but the one I thought I would share with you is one that won't be coming out until March, so it's definitely a prediction for anyone, and it's in my personal favourite genre, which is the hard mode prompt of fantasy. This is Melting the Ice Queen by Stephanie Burgess. It is technically book 3 in a series, so you might want to read the first 2 in the lead up. I personally think it sounds like it could stand alone, but I again will be trying to catch up. I read books from Stephanie Burgess before, I've really enjoyed them. She usually writes quite gentle fantasy, and I'm interested to see what she's doing now in this Villainesses series. In this particular book, we are following an ice queen who makes a marriage of political alliance with a fiery high priestess as they work to take down the priestess's brother. I'm hoping there's going to be some political intrigue here, and I always love an arranged marriage storyline. Again, the next prompt, which is a new to you author, is going to vary for everyone, but the hard mode prompt is less than 5,000 ratings on Goodreads, so if I share one that I really enjoyed that fits the hard mode, the chances are it might fit the easy mode for you too. My suggestion would be Knit 1, Girl 2 by Shira Glassman. This is a really short little novella, and it's a contemporary, which is unusual for me, but I had a great time reading about small batch yarn dyer Clara and the inspiration she finds in the work of wildlife painter Danielle. The relationship between the two blossoms as they begin to work on a new yarn project. It's very low stakes, it's very cozy, and it's less than 70 pages long. Prompt number 4 is a 2026 release, with the hard mode being to read it within 30 days of the release date. So I've set up a little bit of a trickier one here because I'm already nearly 2 months behind. It has to be something coming out before the end of the year, but not something that already came out, because obviously that's not going to fit in those 30 days. So the one that I am earmarking for myself, and I think you might enjoy too, is Lavender and Hemlock by Lily Wilkinson. Aside from the absolutely stunning cover, which I will admit is entirely what caught my attention, this is described as a sweet and cosy romantasy, but with a dark heart. We are following a young housemaid whose life is disrupted when a mysterious visitor causes her to question the nature of her seemingly charming cottage home. There has been a bit of a trend in the past couple of years for lady nights, and I'm all about it. The last prompt on this row is a queer booktuber rec, and the hard mode is that they have less. There are lots of booktubers you could pick for this, and it's a great excuse to really delve into some new content creators. You could even include this one from. I really enjoyed Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner. She actually has a few different Sapphic books you could pick up. They're all adult contemporary romances, and I have enjoyed the ones I've read. This one in particular is completely outside my comfort zone. It was one I didn't expect to like, and it really won me over, so it might be an interesting one for you to give a try. This is a major age gap relationship. We have a college senior, Cassie, who has a one-night stand with a woman she meets at a bar, and the next day finds out that this woman is her roommate's mum. There's a real connection, a real chemistry between the two, and we get to see how the relationship kind of influences all the different aspects of their life. I really didn't think I was going to enjoy a best friend's mum story. I usually don't enjoy a best friend's anything story, let alone adding in that kind of taboo age gap. But this book really worked for me. I had a great time with it, and I think it's worth at least giving a try. For the first prompt on the second row, we are looking for a late bloomer, and the hard mode is that the MC finds out she's queer after she's turned 25. For this one, I would suggest The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite. This is the first book in her Feminine Pursuit series, which I utterly love. Every book is a different Sapphic couple, and they always have occupations that are quite unusual for the historical time period we're talking about. We have beekeepers and women running their own printing press. In this specifically, we are following Lucy and Catherine. Lucy is young and longs to be an astronomer. Catherine is the Countess of Moth. She has recently been widowed and has an interest in fashion design. She hires Lucy to translate and possibly get reprinted her late husband's astronomy notes. Catherine is older, and meeting Lucy causes her to question everything she knows about herself. Next prompt is to borrow a book, and hard mode is to finish it within 3 weeks of borrowing. Now, obviously this depends entirely on what you are able to borrow, what your library has, so I do have two suggestions here. The first would be to go for something incredibly popular that I think most reasonably sized libraries will stock, and that would be two of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. You could either go with Atmosphere, which is a slightly newer release set in the 80s and following two female astronauts in the middle of a disastrous space situation. Or you could go for my personal favourite, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This one has been out a bit longer. We have a young journalist who is called to the home of an eccentric and reclusive golden age movie star for Evelyn to tell her her life story. This one is set obviously more in the kind of golden age of Hollywood glamour, and I really enjoyed the different relationships we get to see play out. Now, if you don't have access to a library, or your library is really small and doesn't have a lot of Sapphic books, I do have a workaround. Technically, you wouldn't be borrowing this book, but you would get it for free online through something like an internet public library, and I think you could count it. The book is Jill by Amy Dillwyn. I personally haven't read it yet, but it is on my TBR for this year, and it came out in the 1880s, so it's probably one of the first Sapphic books, which I think makes it a really fascinating read and a great choice for this bingo board. Jill follows a gentlewoman who disguises herself as a lower-born maid so that she can run off to London. She then gets hired and ultimately develops feelings for her mistress. The next prompt is non-fiction, and I would suggest Immodest Acts by Judith C. Brown. This is on my TBR too. I keep meaning to get to it and I just haven't got there yet. It won't count for hard mode because it isn't a memoir or autobiography, but again, I think it's something that could be really interesting. The subtitle of the book is The Life of a Lesbian Nun in Renaissance Italy. We are hearing about the life of Sister Bendita Carlini, the abbess of the convent of the Mother of God. This shows not only the rise and fall of an incredibly powerful woman, but it is also one of the first documented cases of lesbianism in Western history. So I think, again, much like Jill, this would be a really nice way to break up some of the more modern fiction on your list. Number 9 is set outside of your country. Again, slightly depends on where you are yourself, but for me, I've picked something that is set in Egypt, with His Face is the Sun by Michelle Habez Corpora. This is the first book in her Throne of Katara series. I have been absolutely loving it. It is YA, which I didn't think I would go for, but honestly, the books are so immersive, they're so well plotted, they very much are a YA version of Game of Thrones in ancient Egypt. Our story follows 4 different protagonists, one of whom is Rey, very much one of our commoners, gets caught up in a rebellion to overthrow the king. There's a slow burn romance that develops over the course of the 2 books currently out, and I'll look forward to see how it develops when the final book in the trilogy is released. For the prompt Witchy Sapphics and the hard mode prompt Magic is central to the plot, I would suggest The Midnight Girls by Alicja Jasinska. This is a Polish-inspired world, a Polish-inspired setting with lesbian and bi protagonists. We are following 2 rival witch apprentices as they are both set the task and have to compete to quite literally steal the heart of a prince. This snowy, cold setting would be absolutely perfect to read going into winter. I had a great time with it. I loved how unique the world building was, and I gave it 5 stars. The first prompt on row 3 is a tattooed love interest, and for this I've picked Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. In this, we are following Delilah, who goes back to her hometown to photograph her sister's wedding and finds herself falling for one of her sister's best friends. There was a lot of really fun stuff with character in this one. I really enjoyed seeing Delilah and Claire, the love interest, along with Claire's young daughter, start to spend time together and start to bond. There was a really nice and unusual situation here for the family dynamic that Claire is in, and I really enjoyed the book. It's the first in a series of interconnected standalones set in this small town of Bright Falls, and I've really enjoyed Ashley Herring Blake's writing each time. Next prompt is an indie author, and the hard mode is that they have written more than 1 Sapphic book. My recommendation here for you would be The Queen of Iflaria by Effie Calvin. It's the first in a series, so obviously she has written more than 1, and I recommend you check out the whole series. These are fantasy world settings, each follows a different couple in a kind of interconnected world. In this one in particular, we are following Isofi, who has for her whole life been engaged to politically marry the Prince of Albion. However, when he unfortunately dies, she finds that the arrangement is changed and she is due to marry the new heir to the throne, his sister Adele. There's some really nice stuff in here with Isofi finding out about the culture of Iflaria. There's a little bit of religious reform here, and there's dragons. Sapphics and dragons. What more do you need? Then right in the middle we have free space, so obviously you can just pick something you like. And then we jump into prompt 14, which is a trans Sapphic MC, with hard mode being a book that is over 300 pages. I'm going to suggest Dreadnought by April Daniels. This is the first in a YA superhero duology, and Dreadnought is incredible. I really enjoyed it, considering I don't really like superhero books, but the sequel Nemesis is absolutely top tier. We're following Danny, who's been trying to keep the fact that she is trans kind of undercover, but when the world's greatest superhero dies literally at her feet and passes his mantle onto her, she kind of has no choice, as his powers reshape her body to be what it has always been supposed to be. She ends up with the body she's always wanted, but it does cause problems in her private life with her father and her best friend. And then she also finds that Dreadnought's murderer, Utopia, might be out to get her too. For a book with a pretty cover, I would suggest The Fireborn Blade by Charlotte Bond. This is another novella, so keeping it nice and short so you can fit as many as possible in. It is the first in a duology that goes along with The Bloodless Princes, and I think both are stunning. In this, we are following Sir Maddeley. She is a noble knight whose reputation has been called into question, and so she sets off in search of a mythical object, the Fireborn Blade, in a dangerous dragon's cave to redeem herself. This book has a multi-POV timeline. There are some great twists at the end, a really nice slow burn romance, and some interesting things to say about reputation and the stories that are passed down. On the fourth row, our first prompt is a road trip, and for this one, I really feel like you can't go wrong with Alison Corcoran novels. She's so good. This one is Here We Go Again, and we are following two women, two currently, not enemies, but like annoyances. They dislike each other, who at one point were childhood friends, as they are pulled together again to go on a one last time bucket list road trip with the dying teacher that they both look up to. It is a sad book. It does have a lot of trigger warnings here. There is a character death in it. It's right there in the premise, but it's a really beautiful book that looks at queer relationships, both in the Sapphic sense, but also in the platonic sense and in the relationships that maybe we missed out on along the way. For the manga prompt, I am going to cheat a little bit because I don't read manga, but I do have a graphic novel I think would work, so we're going to count that and hope for the best. This is Mooncakes by Suzanne Walker and Wendy Xu. It's a very, very cozy story. We are following Nova, a young witch who works in her grandmother's bookshop, and Tam, a werewolf that turns to her for help. This has a really beautiful, soft storyline all about found family and intergenerational families between Nova and her grandmother. It's a really, really lovely little graphic novel. Next prompt is to read a translated work, and for this I would pick Z.R. Reid's Breaking Legacies. In a land impoverished by a war that started before she was born, Kina has provided for her mother and brother by becoming one of the best hunters in the kingdom. But when a lifelong friend with connections recommends her to the king to track down a runaway princess, her life gets turned upside down. Finding the princess is easy, deciding what to do in a conflicting mess of politics and emotions. This was a really classic fantasy story. I really enjoyed the world building, the journeying aspect of the story, along with quite a lot of interesting politics and real dilemmas on the part of the characters. The next prompt is fake dating. This is probably my favourite trope to read about in romance, so I will be really excited to really dig into this one and find myself some interesting books. The two that I would recommend are actually both Christmas books, both following MCs who aren't fake dating the romantic interest, they're fake dating his brother. We have one set in a really kind of cosy English small town, Make You Mine This Christmas by Lizzie Huxley Jones. And then Alison Corcoran makes a second appearance on this list with Kiss Her Once For Me, which is set in an isolated cabin near Portland. The last prompt on this row is a friend pick, with the hard mode being they can only use the cover to choose. So while obviously I can't say what your friend's going to pick, I'm just going to suggest something that I think you could show them the cover for and they might lean towards. This is The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry by C.M. Wagner, and it has a really, really pretty cover. In this, we are following Delaria Wells, a scrappy young thief con artist who is hired to join a group of other talented mercenary women as they protect a young rich woman from mysterious assassins. I really love this cover. I've actually bought this book twice because once I couldn't find it and I thought I'd given it away, so I bought another one and then I found it. It's fine. They both look great on my shelf. On the last row, we start off with an audiobook prompt, with the hard mode being to read it at 1x speed. Honestly, this might be the one prompt I will just not try hard mode even a little bit, because I don't know what speed do you listen to your audiobooks at? 1 is insane to me. But the book I would suggest, and one that I think might be worth savouring at 1x speed, so one where I really do think the narrator adds so much to the book, does so much with it, is Bianca Torre is Afraid of Everything by Justine Pacella Willens. This is a YA, has a bit of a murder mystery and a bird watching angle, which I wasn't expecting but utterly loved. In this, we are following Bianca, who is riddled with just about every type of fear you can imagine. She keeps a list that is referred to throughout the book and actually listed at the back. And when she spots a murder occurring in the apartment opposite hers through her window, her best friend and the new girl that she has been starting to enjoy bird watching with all team up to try and investigate what's happening. The narrator for this is Vico Ortiz, and they do an incredible job. Next prompt is friends to lovers, with the hard mode being that they have been friends since childhood. I might be stretching that hard mode just a tiny bit here with The Unlikely Pursuit of Mary Bennet by Linz McLeod. This is a retelling or a sequel to Pride and Prejudice, following the middle sister Mary as she reconnects with Elizabeth's friend, her big sister's friend, Charlotte Lucas, after the events of the book, after Charlotte's husband has died. It was an easy read. I actually read it while I was in Bath, thinking that Bath would feature since it comes up quite often in Jane Austen books. It didn't, but I had a really good time with that kind of Regency setting while reading this book. The next prompt is a femme MC, with the hard mode being with a butch or mask love interest. For this one, I would recommend Love at First Set by Jennifer Duggan. In this, we are following Lizzie, who works in a gym and is taken by her best friend James as his +1 to his sister's wedding. There accidentally sort of maybe talks the bride out of the wedding, and then we get to follow all the hijinks as Lizzie tries to make sure that the family, her bosses, never find out what happened, while she bonds with Clara, the ex-bride, who is now trying to reinvent her life and find herself. Almost at the end, our second last prompt is a cozy read, with the hard mode being an author's debut. And for this one, I would suggest possibly my favourite book of last year, The Phoenix Keeper by S.A. McLean. This is set in a magical zoo following Ayla, the Phoenix Keeper, as she tries to win a prestigious breeding program for her phoenixes and for her zoo. The last prompt is a genre you love, and the hard mode is that it must feature an established couple. Again, this is one that's going to vary for person to person, but one of my favourite genres is mystery. Specifically, I love the trope of an isolated big manor house, some reason that the protagonist can't leave, that kind of locked room, Poirot, Agatha Christie style setting. So for this one, I would recommend Murder Most Actual by Alexis Hall. In this one, we are following a true crime podcaster and her wife as they encounter that exact situation. While they are snowed in place, the bodies start to drop. We get to see some of the pressures, some of the strains that are on this established relationship, while also getting some little quirky, humorously satiric nods to spy movies and Golden Age mysteries. Alexis Hall is always a favourite for me. I really enjoyed this one, even with the Scottish setting, which quite often puts me off. So there are the Sapphic books that I've had a really good time with, or in some cases that I am really excited to read. Let me know if any of these caught your attention, or if you have a favourite that you think should be somewhere on this list. I hope I will see you again, maybe with some updates to this challenge in future videos. Bye.